My name is Kamalle Dabboussy, and I'm very happy to be able to bring to you this series of mayoral candidate interviews for those that are running for the Mayor of Liverpool City Council. We would have liked to have been able to bring people together, but in the current environment, that's been difficult. So we're presenting these interviews based on questions the community have submitted to us in order that these candidates respond to your questions. We hope we find value in these interviews. I'd like to introduce the independent mayoral candidate for Liverpool, Michael Andjelkovic. He is going to be speaking to us today. Michael, welcome. And can I introduce you to say a few words about yourself, please?
Thank you, Kamalle. Yes, I'd like to introduce myself. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be able to introduce myself. I was born in Liverpool. I've been a resident of Liverpool for coming up to 60 years. I've been a ratepayer of Liverpool for over 40 years. And I chose to go into semi-retirement at the end of 2015, did a bit of international travel for a couple of years. And then at the beginning of 2018, I started my campaigning as an independent community campaigner for Liverpool. Started campaigning for multi-level car parks at Edmondson Park and Leppington stations, which then led to other community campaigns, such as the public school or primary school for Edmondson Park, the high school for Edmondson Park, getting involved in local sports clubs, working with business owners to stop issues like the Oxton Park shops and the closure of their intersection by RMS, or proposed closure of their intersection by RMS, bringing light to the requirement for extending the widening of 15th Avenue. So I think I've done around 20 odd petitions in the last 4 years. A friend of mine calculated that I've put in at least 4,000 hours in community service, and I've been encouraged to stand for mayor based on my commitment, my dedication, my persistence to community causes. And I'd like to, represent the people if they believe that I'm a worthy and deserving candidate.
We've polled communities to understand some of their concerns, some of their questions, and we've picked out some questions that the community has supplied to us. During the Delta outbreak, the communities of Liverpool felt like they were overlooked, that they didn't have a strong voice. If you became mayor, how could you actually address this issue in making sure that local communities do have a strong voice moving forward?
Thank you for that question, Kamalle. I also tend to agree. Compared to some of the other local mayors in the surrounding areas, our representative certainly wasn't as vocal as they were. So in order to bring a greater voice, I think one has to step forward as a leader and as the public face of the city and engage with media and engage with the community and ensure that they lead from the front foot. So my logo for the 2019 election was local, loud, and looking out for Liverpool. And that's what I'd bring to the mayoral position, that I am a local, I am loud, and I'm prepared to look out for Liverpool.
Does that maintain your continuing slogan for the current election campaign?
I've actually, because of the experience I've had over the last 4 years, my campaign slogan at the moment is for this local election is putting Liverpool first, because that's what I believe I have been doing. And on a personal level, so is once again, commitment, dedication, and persistence equals results.
Thank you very much for that. Liverpool has local limited community facilities, and the access to facilities is essential in promoting a social, cohesive, harmonious local community. As Mayor, what can you do to address access to facilities and investment into facilities for established and new and emerging communities?
Thank you for asking that. So with limited infrastructure for community-based facilities, this is an issue that my community, being I'm of Serbian heritage. So I'm Australian born, of Serbian heritage. I'm the third generation of my family to call Liverpool home. My late grandfather actually settled here in Liverpool after he came out to Australia in 1949. Then my parents and I was born. My children were born, and they've lived here all their lives. And my grandchildren are also born in Liverpool, and they're 1 or 2, so they've lived here all their lives as well. But going one step back, I understand the necessity for having meeting places. It's an issue going back for the migrants from the 50s and 60s and 70s when they came out, that they all got together. I know with the Serbian community, we got together and actually, not just the Serbian community, but we got together with community clubs and built our own community clubs. It's getting harder and harder to do because of the costs involved in acquiring premises. Some of those clubs, the Serbian clubs we have, and the Italian clubs, for argument's sake, Marconi grew up from a community club, and look, it's now as big as it is. Bonnyrigg White Eagles up at Bonnyrigg Sports Club on Elizabeth Drive also was started off as a small Serbian club, and it's grown. The German club in Cabramatta came and went because the community's gone. I know there's been Polish clubs and smaller clubs that have been evolved. What I can do as a mayor is look at what's happening with our current infrastructure. Obviously, the construction of Civic Place, the new headquarters for Liverpool Council, will leave some other premises available for use. So the Liverpool Library will be relocated. The Liverpool Council Chambers will be relocated. We can possibly start looking at utilising those spaces for some community efforts. You must remember, though, that a mayor is the public face of the council. He or she, that they are responsible for running the meetings effectively and making sure that all the councillors meet the various requirements. The actual decisions are made by vote of the 10 councillors. So the mayor has one vote, or in case of a deadlock, a casting vote. So it's obviously, for me being an independent, it will mean, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected mayor, to ensure that the other councillors from whichever parties they come from put aside their political party positions and work together for the betterment of our community.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, the Georges River is an important meeting place for all communities, Indigenous communities and the Australian mainstream population, most recently for the Mandaean community. As Mayor, what could you do to ensure clean water security and a great meeting place to continue for Liverpool?
Okay. I appreciate the issue with the Georges River. With regard to the issue of the Georges River, I understand it's an important place for the Mandaeans because of their religious beliefs. In that they follow St. John the Baptist. Being Serbian Orthodox, being Serbian Orthodox Christian, we also have uses for the river. I was asked by the bishop to look at potential places for the swimming of the cross, where the Greek Orthodox and Serbian Orthodox also have those celebrations or on one day a year, and I couldn't find anything because of the state of the river. So unfortunately, the river is such a long, it's quite a long
Tributary, yes.
Yeah. So it also means that we've got to involve state authorities. It also means we've got to talk to councils that go upstream, but we'd have to look at trying to clean the river up, and providing clean water depends on ensuring there's water flow, rainfall, catchment. I think it's not just the Georges River, it's also the small estuaries that flow into it, keeping our creeks clean, making sure they're tidy, even with our stormwater, to ensure that our stormwater drains and channels are kept as free as possible from garbage, to put it bluntly, rubbish, to try and keep the river clean. So once again, it means working with the relevant authorities at a state level, encouraging our local councillors to then, and working with council staff. As a mayor, you're there as a conduit. So you're there for people to, talk through. If you, for those people who've actually watched or listened to the meeting, when there's the meeting, it goes, the councillors go through the mayor, and the council staff go through the CEO, and that's the way it works. That's we're meant as a pivot point for people to talk to one another.
Thank you very much. How can we ensure relationships with all communities in Liverpool, including diverse communities? And historically, those that have been hard to reach within the community. And I cite the example of the Fijian community, which in themselves is not a unified, homogenous group. There's difference with the Fijian community, but they haven't been well accessed by either state, federal, or even I'd say local government in the past. How could we ensure a relationship that develops, fosters to make sure that those communities remain included in our local mainstream life?
Kamalle, thank you. Look, having come myself from what was a minority community, the Serbian community, many years ago, I understand the issue. Depending on which figures you look at, I know that Liverpool has anywhere between 120 and 140 different nationalities and ethnic groups. It's quite large. It's quite diverse in the number of areas, linguistically, culturally, on a religious basis. And we have to look at incorporating all of that into the fabric of what is the overarching community. I look at it this way. I look at the large community of Liverpool as a patchwork quilt, where each of these other communities all work together. So, it's once you put the patches all together, it becomes a large quilt. How can we bring them all together? Well, it's a matter of reaching out. It's a matter of meeting with community leaders. It's a matter of understanding. And once again, I talk from, life experience, from personal experience of watching what's happened with, myself, and watching what's happened in the Serbian community and various other European communities and those emerging communities that have come over the years. So we had our post-war communities and immigrants in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Then we had the Middle Eastern immigrants come out after the war in Lebanon, for argument's sake. We've had our Vietnamese communities come out after the war in Vietnam. I mean, we're very welcoming. There's a lot of people who have been displaced, even in the 90s, where we had the Balkans War. We once again welcomed people. We've got people from Iran and Iraq, etc. Once again, come from war-torn countries that have been, settled here and have been Liverpool home, Australia home, but Liverpool more specifically home. So understanding, reaching out, contact, using, groups like yours and being able to just interact and speak. Communication, I think, is the key.
Yep.
And I speak a couple of languages, but I can say hello in many languages.
Maybe a few words beyond that, perhaps.
Yes. But translators are available as well. So it's a matter of sitting down and getting to understand what everybody's needs are and being able to work through that.
Thank you very much, Michael. We want Liverpool City to be a vibrant, exciting city with a great nightlife as well. Many have cited sort of the nightlife that exists in Parramatta. What can we do to help build that exciting, vibrant, harmonious city?
So, Kamalle, I agree that with the growth that Liverpool is going through now and is expected to go through with the Aerotropolis, being, having a vibrant CBD and having nightlife in our city, in our CBD, is going to be very important, because if we don't have that, then we won't have the attractiveness for international travellers. How can we go about that? Obviously, we need private investment in that. We need to be able to attract the venue, the people that will look at creating the venues and the restaurants, etc. Obviously, this period now that we've gone through in the last 18 months to 2 years with COVID has really knocked things around. But even prior to COVID, I noticed that in our CBD, say Macquarie Mall, come 6 o'clock, 6:30, it was all locked up, and it was there was no one around. How can we make that? I think we need to make sure that we need to make the city lighter. There needs to be more light. There needs to be more security. It needs to be more safety. It needs to feel safe. I remember when I was in my a teenager, Thursday nights before Macquarie Mall happened, when Macquarie Street was there, and Thursday night shopping was around. You'd go down and it was buzzing. There were cars going up and down. There were people on the footpaths. Westfield Plaza was a hang-out place for the school kids in there, year 11 and 12. And that just doesn't seem to happen anymore. We need to bring that back. Once again, it's a matter of making Liverpool an attractive location to bring those sorts of venues back, to get things happening, to create an eat street. I think we need to build on our cultural diversity to create Liverpool as a centre for, what brings people together: food, music, dance, entertainment, cultural activities, fashion space. So all of those things need to be brought in together, and then we need to get things going to lead to the Parramatta style Church Street eatery nightlife. Once again, as mayor, I'm one person, but you're the leader. It comes back to talking to community groups. It comes back to talking to businesses. It comes back to seeing what we can do to attract those sort of operators and venues to bring them into Liverpool.
Thank you very much. Western Sydney MRC is a community-based organisation. It's embedded with the local communities. Our leaders, our constituents expect us to undertake a role working with government, but also in the provision of services and supporting them. How do you see yourself as mayor as working with the MRC?
Well, I think from my limited knowledge of the MRC, because I've looked up a little bit about you. I know you've been around for a while. But as mayor, I would see myself as working with MRC as a conduit to other community groups so that we could talk, we could expand things, we could look at ideas, we could look at suggestions. So you already have the base, you already have the network. I've worked in business development. It's easier to work with a community leader who takes contacts rather than trying to go out and create those contacts all over again from the beginning. So it would be advantageous for myself as mayor to work with a group like yours and other groups that are already established in order to enhance and grow Liverpool for its benefit. In order to vote for Michael Andjelkovic at the election, you'll receive 2 ballot papers. So on the small ballot paper, that is for the mayor, you just put vote 1 next to Michael Andjelkovic, and if you want to, you can put 2 or 3 next to any other name that you like. On the large ballot paper, depending on which area you're in, North or South Ward, you just look for the name Andjelkovic, find the group with the name Andjelkovic, and just put 1 above the line, and that's all you have to do. In North Ward, it's Group B. In South Ward, it's Group F. Thank you.
Western Sydney MRC, powered by community.